Session 2's lecture topic is on gender roles. Be sure that you've read your textbook before listening to this lecture overview and completing your Session 2 notes. As previously discussed in my Session 2 video that introduces the Session 2 topic and explains how gender is analyzed through the three theories, you'll start your notes off with a review of those paradigms. Be sure to return to that video if you need an additional overview or refresher in order to complete the top half of page 1 of your Session 2 lecture notes. Thinking about the essential question at the top of your lecture notes, how is gender and family related? Do you remember when we discussed the function of the family? So the family exists and functions in an effort to provide care for its members, socialize them into society, provide them with emotional stability in the form of a safe home, one where they can learn and grow. Families are supposed to provide support in the form of meeting the needs of the children, such as food, clothing, and shelter. They're supposed to teach them about and regulate their sexual behaviors. So building on that, we're going to look at the social accountability for families, or the expectations of families to teach gender within the society. The family unit is the primary place where children are taught how to act, encouraged on what hobbies to take up, what clothes to wear, or what to say. Essentially, children learn about their family stereotypes or expectations of them through either spoken or unspoken family aspects. Parents, or whoever is playing the role of a parent, is the most influential feature in a child's life. And we see children model behaviors that they learn within their family unit. Before I move too far ahead, I want to stop and review sex and gender. This is sometimes a difficult topic for a lot of people to grasp because there's so much controversy between sex and gender. And in our society, we actually use these terms interchangeably, but in fact, they're not interchangeable. If you look at the actual definitions, sex is something that is biologically based upon biological factors. The chromosomes that are in your DNA determine your sex. What type of hormones are in your body determine your sex. Your sex organs, your internal and external genitalia, determine your sex. So sex is kind of stationary, since it goes along with biology. The term gender, which is what we're going to talk about, is much more constructed. Gender is determined by social and psychological factors. So these are learned behaviors, learned beliefs, learned values, learned attitudes. Gender is what is taught inside of that family unit. Think about this in that way that we expect females to wear dresses and we expect men to wear suits. That is not something biologically we are born to know how to do. It is something that society has constructed. Moving on to gender identity, it's important for us to understand the terminology of sex versus gender because this concept is very controversial. And while we're not going to argue with one another about our particular beliefs, it is important to understand what word goes with what meaning, especially in our writing. So gender identity is what people identify as. It's their psychological state of the view of themselves. Some sociologists will assert that gender is not something that we're born with, it's something that we learn. So you'll learn through the family unit whether you view yourself as a male or as a female. Society has also recently added terms that you may be familiar with, such as agender or gender fluid. Agender would be someone that does not identify as having a gender at all. And gender fluid would be someone who views their daily gender differently. One day they may feel like a female, and one day they may feel like a male. There are other terms floating around as well, but those two are the ones that I'll share with you today. Now, when we talk about gender roles in society or within a family unit, we are talking about the social norms. So what a family or society has determined what is appropriate for females to do, what is appropriate for males to do. Inside of a family unit, this means what a male is expected to do is different than what a female is expected to do. The gender role ideology is the belief about the role relationship between the males and the females in the society. If we look at this from a traditional standpoint, we see that traditional roles is where the men are the providers of the income. They work outside of the home, and then the women fill in the domestic roles, completing the works inside the home, such as raising the children, cooking the meals, doing the laundry. An egalitarian view is much more of a modern approach to gender roles. And this focuses on that equal contribution of income, that equal home chores, the equal responsibility division, equal voices in family decisions. And your particular view of which one of these you prefer is going to be shaped by the experiences in your life thus far. The types of roles that you have seen modeled in your past or currently in your present definitely has an effect in one way or another about your idea of gender roles. And remember, your view is not right or wrong. It's just your view because it is based upon your life experiences. And some of your experiences may make you have a view that is somewhat traditional and also somewhat egalitarian. We've previously discussed how gender is taught or constructed. So we're now going to chat about society policing that through socialization. This is called agents of socialization, and you'll see more of this in your textbook. The first is obviously the family, which is what we'll focus on in this course. But another example building on that is the family socializing gender through perhaps toy selection. So a family member typically is going to purchase a toy in the form of perhaps a baby doll or a Barbie for a female child. But that same family member would likely purchase a different toy if they were purchasing for a male child, such as a truck, some sports balls. So you see, even when we don't intend to enforce gender, we do. Different races and religions also place expectations on different genders and the expectations of them within their roles. Even your peers or your friends in your social groups assert certain regulations of gender onto you. So maybe through picking on peers or kind of ragging on each other, peers police each other over the words they use. They encourage certain clothes or certain actions. Our educational system also socializes gender, and that kind of ties into the economy socializing gender as well. In education, especially in young children, we tend to teach a little bit different. Typically, the boys are allowed to be a little more rowdy in a classroom than a female student is. Our career pathways that we guide students into in schooling are also very gender-based, and that bleeds over into the economy as well. because there are typical male and female dominated occupations. We see the effects of this in campaigns to perhaps get more females into those STEM careers. That's an effort to curb that occupational segregation that ties into conflict theory. And my least favorite ever is mass media. Media in general can just be so powerful that it can be oppressing, and it can have a lot of psychological effects on individuals. For example, females and female body types. Think about how mass media affects young girls and their mental health when it comes to their bodies. So to wrap up my input here, be sure that you review the positive and the negatives of male and female gender roles and gender socialization and their consequences. These charts are also in your textbook. And then take a few moments and reflect on your thoughts about gender and gender roles, and complete the summary questions for this set of your lecture notes.